In this video, I want to talk to you about 3 things to do before your next interview. 3 things to do before your next interview. So sometimes we get an interview and we just go to the interview. We don't think about preparing, or we don't know how to prepare. And so I want you to think about doing some things before you go to your interview to increase your chances of being selected as a final candidate and then actually as a new employee, a new hire. From now on, don't just go to an interview unprepared. Don't just go and not think about, the job, the company before you go. So 3 things to think about before your next interview. The first thing I always tell people is Google your name before you go to an interview. Always Google your name to see what comes up, because you can guarantee that whoever is interviewing you, their team, their assistant, someone behind the scenes has Googled your name to see what comes up. It is so important that you have a professional presence, that you have thought about your personal brand, that you have a LinkedIn page, that you have some type of blog or some type of content out there with your area of expertise. Just make sure that it's a clean, Google search, that it's not, things that are, maybe it's something that you do in your personal life that would not reflect positively, to an employer. So just Google your name before you, go to an interview. The 3 things you want to look at before you go to an interview is Google the company. I always say when you're applying for jobs, if you're serious about, getting a job, making more money, or getting a better job, always, when you apply for a job, always print out that particular, job description, because you want to be able to come back to that job description. And if you're selected to be interviewed, you want to come back to the job description and really see what were they asking for, because you want to weave those qualities, those things that they're looking for into your interview questions. But when we don't print out the job description, and I know it can be a lot, but if you're serious though, you want to do it, because if we don't prepare ahead of time, then we show up and we're unprepared. We don't know what to say. We don't know what they're looking for. Some of us, we apply for hundreds of jobs and we forgot what they were looking for. And we really want to hone in on what they're looking for in the job description. What skills are they looking for? What's the day-to-day? What does the job entail? Because you want the employer to know that you have done the homework, that you have those skills, and that you're weaving them into the questions. So you want to make sure you Google the company. You want to print out the job description, but you want to make sure you Google the company before the interview. And so I know you might be saying, okay, what am I looking for? Why am I Googling the company? So when companies say, what do you know about us, or why should we hire you? You want to have a good answer prepared ahead of time. You don't want to be thinking, or you certainly don't want to say, I applied for this job because I need to get a check. I need to make more money, because nobody cares, right? So you want to look at the company. You want to look at their homepage. You want to look at their investor relations, their the careers page. You want to look at anything about us. You want to look and see, what have they done lately? What are they proud of? What are their accomplishments? Where are they headed in the future? You want to be looking at something that you can weave into a question like, why should we hire you? Or why do you want to work for us? And it will come up, because companies want to know, did you do your research? So you can Google the company and you could just see what comes up. Chances are they have something that they've done in the community, their accomplishments, something that they're doing, that's important to them. If you don't find it when you do a Google search, when you Google the company, they should have a company website, of course, and you just click on it, and then you'll go to the bottom of the page typically, and you'll see an investor relations, about us, and then on the homepage you might see something that will tell you, give you some inclination of what they've been doing, what they've been up to. And of course, you can always go to the job page or the career page, because the career page will tell them, the career page is where they will do some bragging about what they're doing, why you should select them as an employer, a prospective employer. So always Google the company, always Google yourself. The second thing you want to do is you want to Google the 20 top interview questions with answers. So you want to Google the top 20 questions with answers, because typically this is where an employer will pull something from and ask you questions like, tell me about yourself. And I believe that we should prepare ahead of time things that we know they're going to ask us, like, tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And I like this Google Doc, and it doesn't matter which one you pick, just pick one that has the question and answers, because it gives you some ideas to be thinking about ahead of time. You don't just show up winging it on the interview, and it will calm your nerves too if you prepare ahead of time. So if you want to increase your chances of being selected, prepare ahead of time. Google the top 20 questions, interview questions and answers, and always have, you can Google this as well, questions that you can ask the interviewer. If you don't ask questions, they think you're not interested. They think you don't want the job. So always have, I say 5 or 6, and then you might just ask 1 or 2, maybe 3 questions of the employer. The reason why you have 5 or 6 questions is because they will answer some of the questions as you kind of go along. And so you don't want to be, have 2 or 3 questions and then they answer them and then you don't have any questions to ask at the end. So you always want to have questions at the end that you can ask to let the employer know that you are interested in the job and that you're the right person for the job. And then you want to look at, if you can Google the interviewer. So if you know who's going to interview you, you can Google their name. You can see what their LinkedIn profile is, what's on their Facebook. You can just kind of Google their name to see what comes up when you search their name. So do your research. Always know what comes up when you Google your name, and then always have a response to why you left your last job, because employers want to know. They want to know, are you going to speak negatively about them? If you speak negatively about your previous employer, you would do the same thing to them. So they want to make sure that you're going to say something positive, that you're thinking about the future, that you're focused on accomplishments, the positive. And so make sure that you have a response for why you left your last job, because employers want to know. Make sure that everything that you say is positive in the interview, that you put a positive spin on it. If they, come with something, you want to make sure you have a positive spin. Make sure you have stories of how you exhibited team, working with the team, stress-related instance, take an initiative. You want to have these different stories because employers want to know. They want to know, first of all, have you made mistakes? They want to know how you work under pressure, and they want to know that you've thought through, different scenarios, different situations, different stories that you can relate back to them. So make sure you prepare for your next interview. You will be so glad you did. You will increase your chances, dramatically increase your chances of being selected as, a final candidate.